Hey, I'm wless, everyone's favorite Geometry Dash creator, and I'm currently struggling with how to figure out this video editing program. Nevertheless, I'm here today to recount my favorite levels of the year, since my taste is kind of odd, and I think it would be interesting to share what I like with you all. I've put together a list of 20 levels that have stood out to me this year, and I think it's pretty solid. In the description of this video, I've provided a paste bin with my full reasoning for each level's placement on this list. And now that I'm thinking about it, it's pretty much just this video's script, it's nothing special. Funny how that works out. Anyway, I've gone on long enough. Let's start off the list with Light Travel reminds me a lot of last year's Uncanny Travel. Neither level feels like an adventure or huge undertaking, just a collection of ideas that feel powerful together. I can't really put a finger on why I like it so much, but I think it's just because a travel level is the perfect medium to showcase and experiment with a whole bunch of ideas. It's not about executing them perfectly, it's about how they all work together to create a unified and interesting experience, which this level certainly is. At points, it really does feel as if the player is traveling along a ray of light because of the level's incredibly inventive and gradual progression. It doesn't satisfy the player when looking at a singular part, but feels larger than life when looking at the entire level. Split Path reminds me less of a Geometry Dash level and more of one of those indie games that you'd find on the App Store. It's incredibly well done and temporarily removes the player from the constraints of the game so that JF can tell his own story, one that we can interact with. When he asks us to knock on the door or to light a match, he doesn't obviously spell it out for us, but instead a simple indicator pops up on the screen, and this approach to interactivity is so much more immersive than actually asking the player to do something, as are the faint visual effects that evolve with the story. We aren't looking at JF's story from the outside, we are a part of it ourselves. My favorite Woolsey levels are from 2018. Desultory and Half-Hearted are a fantastic pair of levels that are just as elegant as they are timeless. And although Trip Trippy isn't a full return to form, it's the closest that Woolsey has gotten to recreating the feel of those two levels, and it hit me with a huge wave of nostalgia. The modernistic edge that Woolsey gives his design-heavy style here isn't as alienating as it may seem, since the whole level is covered by a reassuring veil of familiarity that reminds us that this is still a Woolsey level. He lets his own style and personality shine through, despite the new direction, and this gives us great results. I was pretty lukewarm on Hub when it first came out, but as the year progressed, I seemed to like it more and more, and now it's here on my list. Jenkins has a super distinctive design effect fusion style that always seems to amaze me, and in that regard, Hub is no different, but it's also unlike anything else I've seen from Jenkins, because he struck the perfect balance of design and theming. While Incipient and Zettabyte are great levels, even if they do favor one side over another, Hub feels like a huge step forward. It's a futuristic, space-age experience that's new territory for Jenkins, and he did a great job at combining two aspects of a level that are rarely combined well. Halberd could be considered a recreation of Kirby Superstar Ultra, but I like to think of it as an adventure that merely takes place in the same world as that game. CH31's extremely frantic gameplay is more straightforward than it looks, but the alternate paths it seems to have really make it feel like an open-ended level, an adventure that we're only exploring one route of. Nautilus's decoration really highlights this too, not removing the extraneous gameplay and instead building Halberd around it, offering more possibilities as to what could be inside the airship that the player escapes from. Save as. What could be said about this level that hasn't been said already? Inspired by the Caretaker's Everywhere at the End of Time album, this level represents the progression of Alzheimer's, and it does quite well. Pillar's familiarity with the modernistic style becomes more and more obscure as the level goes on, bringing it into dark, scary territory that a lot of other levels can only scratch the surface of. But we know this already. This level has been talked about to death at this point. Besides, what I'm interested in is what it means for the community. Save As was released in the summer, which saw the rise of a lot more ambitious and artistic levels. Although some were merely statement pieces, Save As was arguably the best at bridging the gap between Geometry Dash and art. Pillar didn't build it so it could be looked at. He built it to be played, felt, experienced by the player. I'm a huge sucker for Dia de los Muertos decorations, which are incredibly ornate and unique, perfectly capturing the celebration and honor of the dead. With the Cempasúchil, Dizex brings this to Geometry Dash, and it looks gorgeous. The level is filled with incredibly detailed blocks and backgrounds that carry the spirit of Dia de los Muertos with them. And I mean, I don't really know what else to say, I just think it looks great. As much as I poke fun at John265 and monthly Epic Roundup, I really do love his levels. Their power comes from their simplicity, which heightens their lighthearted spirit and allows John to experiment with so many different ideas, to varying levels of success. Life as we know it is the light that we all needed at the end of the shitty year that was 2020, and although it's not humorous like Mission Lashana, the last second cut from this list, it's a sincerely cute and innocent level that acts as a blissful escape from reality, in pursuit of love and happiness. It reminds me a lot of the Line Rider track, The Wonder of You, in both its visuals and its heartwarming message, and you can't help but smile at it. It's a glimpse into the creator's innermost feelings, expressed in a beautifully simplistic way, and it's adorable. Undersea is the rare type of level that brings back 2.0 nostalgia without glamorizing the high-caliber effects scene, which is refreshing to see. Instead, the level calls upon thematic decoration to accomplish its nostalgic feel, as well as retro block design and a sort of mysterious, adventure-y song that's reminiscent of creators such as Ella Manubis and Epic Lucas. In short, it's a Waterflame song. The level is a remake of Dark Sea by Tamin, which is a decent level to begin with, but in my opinion, the thing that really makes it work is NeoGamer GD's masterful sense of depth, something that the original lacked. Undersea begins at sea level, but soon shifts its focus to an underwater scene, which is made more immersive by the level's effective use of the ground, which acts as a seafloor. It's one of the most creative uses for it that I've seen, and, unlike other levels that take place at low vertical positions, it makes sense to keep the player restricted like this. The level's simple appearance works really well here because it doesn't try to upscale Dark Sea's decoration. It's a Tamin level, it doesn't need any extra work to look good, but instead it tries to reinvent it, which it completely succeeds at doing. In 2020, we saw the rise of a whole lot of new creators, but in my opinion, the most exciting of them is Presta. He's not scared to take risks with his work, which has allowed him to grow and experiment with so many ideas so early on. Planetary Sector is the first level of his to really gain traction, and wow is it something special. At points it feels like a new Tamin level, but in an incredibly respectful way that doesn't rip off his style at all. The level has a pretty spacey atmosphere to it, and this is heightened by the alien block structuring and deep color usage, which give the level an otherworldly quality to it. You aren't flying through space, you're touching down on an alien planet. World is a level with endless possibilities. It plays with typical linear structure of a level, branching into so many different paths that interweave with each other and create a unique experience with every playthrough. pardon the flex, but it's kind of similar to Chaos Game in that regard, except with a completely different aspect to the level, and one that empowers Greebworld's themes of creativity and adventure. Greeb invites us into his mind, showing us both his own limitless creativity and the GD editor's limitless possibilities. If you can think it, you can build it, and the only thing keeping you from realizing your ideas is your aversion of taking risks. I really love how dreamlike this level feels, with its kaleidoscopic colors and strange flow, and I'd be happy to get lost in it forever.
Yo, you that spike over there? Yo, can you see that spike? Bro, I think it's here. Oh my god, it's getting closer. Okay, we're getting ready to jump. Get ready to jump. Okay. Oh, 3, 2, 1. It's false alarm.
I'm not a huge fan of comedy levels, since I think they either rely heavily on memes that I don't find funny in the first place, or are surface level jabs at other people or styles, but Brentsilver's take on one is super interesting and genuinely made me chuckle. I expected this, even if I think his levels are hit or miss. I can't deny that they're packed full of unique ideas and creativity. To make the spikes over there work as well as it does, Brentsilver subverts our expectations of a level's progression and breaks the fourth wall to create a surreal foundation upon which his vision can be realized. What gives it humor is the extreme obliviousness of his character. Each time he misses a spike, things get a little more ridiculous, and when the player finally does get to the spike, he's completely unaware of it until after it passes. The joke is pretty obvious, but it doesn't take away at all from the enjoyment I got from this level, and I hope to see more levels that take risks like it. Falling Skies is a very gothic, very elegant art level that's not really as scary as it is mystifying, which is good. Everything from the full moon in the beginning, to the white roses at the end, to the Victorian iron fencing that's present all throughout the level, works to establish this level's very specific atmosphere, and it's one that you don't really see in a lot of levels. It brings a lot to the table that was also brought by its predecessor, Moon Rain, but it's a lot less abstract than that level, and feels like a complete upgrade as a result. Abstract decoration is a lot more interesting to look at, and believe me, Moon Rain is one of my all-time favorites. But it can't really do a gothic style that much justice. Falling Skies feeds into the ornate and ambitious requirements of a gothic style, because it's an art level. Diffuse has always had a strong sense of how to make a cutting-edge modernistic level, but I didn't expect him to drop such a powerful and emotional level so soon. Soonnce was exciting technically, but it didn't carry a lot of the same weight that Satora does. The first 40% or so of this level sets us up for something, with its bright celestial opening becoming darker and more foreboding as it progresses, and it culminates in my favorite part of this level, the build-up. The delicate bell chimes of the song resonate so well with the crystalline block structures, which form and break right in front of the player's eyes and create small moments of beauty. This build-up makes the following drop hit so much harder, and oh my gosh, is it satisfying. Every little detail is paid attention to, heightening all the different moods that Diffuse creates in the level, but we're still left uncertain as to what those moods are, since the level is open-ended enough to where the player is able to decide that for themselves. I like to imagine it as a hopeful struggle, one in which the player emerges victorious upon hearing the triumphant jingle of the end screen. Satora is definitely one of the best modernistic levels we've seen in a long time, and I'm really interested to see what Diffuse does next. Core levels are typically design levels that focus on filling as much space as possible without losing the basic structure of their parts, and, naturally with this community, this definition is rarely expanded. Tethys is a level that challenges every aspect of a core level down to the littlest detail, and, naturally with the experimentation, to interesting results. Presta fills the screen with a wide expanse of light gray void, unchanged throughout the level, save for whatever little white decoration accents it at the time. The actual blocks are psychedelic collages of abstract ideas, pasted together almost randomly, but none of it is what I'd call design. It's art. Tethys doesn't rely on the intricacies of its decoration to wow the player, like most core levels do, since its highly effective contrast between sparse and dense is already more than enough to do that. Instead, it revels in this idea and takes it as an opportunity to take it to the absolute extreme, with curved, spiraling block designs even contrasting the song's faster art with slow gameplay. It's one of the most striking levels of this year, and I'm super excited to watch Presta grow even more as a creator. Abstract Arc's style is defined by his masterful glow usage, and Time Warp only proves this after a 3-year hiatus. It's his most memorable level since Gasoline, and it offers a new perspective of his style that's only possible with time. In the past, Abstract Arc's glow primarily served to highlight other aspects of his levels, whether it was the design, art, or effects, but Time Warp strips the style down to the basics, and the glow essentially is the level, or at least it's the main focus of it. Everything else only accents the glow, and that approach works really well in the context of Time Warp since it's a level that plays to his strengths. With every dynamic piece of glow, I feel like I'm being given a personal laser show, one that's spectacular, breathtaking, and innovative. I've been a huge fan of TMN Gaming's work for years, so to see him back with quotation marks, with the new level is exciting enough as it is, and Soul Searching definitely lives up to the long wait. It's packed full of so many ideas that are given life by its beautifully introspective execution. It's a level that you can tell a lot of care and feeling was put into just through its appearance alone. And this makes sense. The level is supposed to combat TMN Gaming's fleeting attitude toward the game, which is stale to him after 4 years without an update. And wow, is this level a great response to that. Soul Searching's effects warm you up in the beginning, and then they hit you hard. They're not anything too technically complicated, but the way that TMN Gaming uses them is captivating and decidedly strong, which is great to see. He says this may be his last level, which I hope it isn't. I'd love to work with you on a level sometime. But if it is, it sure as hell is a good note to go out on. After being stuck in development hell for 4 years, 2.11 was finally released this August, yet it doesn't feel as dated as it should. That might say more about the endurance of Edster's style than anything, but I mainly think it's because it's a breath of fresh air in the extreme demon scene. Yeah, it's 4 years old, but it's completely different. In a genre dominated by design mega collabs, a small yet ambitious modernistic collab is stylistically new and exciting, and 2.11's decoration harkens back to simpler days when modernistic levels didn't use just as much glow as a design level, making it stand out against current modernistic levels too. For me, this level's biggest strength has always been its contrast. Static black colors are brilliantly juxtaposed against colorful, shifting backgrounds that we still haven't seen anything like to this day. I'm glad to see that 2.11 takes its most striking feature to heart, and is the contrast to the rest of the extreme demon scene, and that surely makes it among the most memorable. If you know me, then you know I make it pretty clear that Quasar is my favorite creator of all time, and that his approach to creating is fascinating to me. What I find so admirable about it is that even though he doesn't have the technical ability to match the game's current standards, he doesn't let that compromise his ideas at all. This has and will always be a defining feature of his work, and it gives his level so much charm and personality that others just don't have. In this regard, Shelto Pusik is no different. Since Quasar's effects are still amateurish, his gameplay is perhaps the most unorthodox of any of his levels so far, and he's still terrible at judging the level's difficulty. But I also think it's the best culmination of all these factors, even if it's not his best level. The oddball decoration of Shelto Pusik only intensifies as it progresses, and a lot of it is so out there that it's impossible to forget. I don't see how anyone can look at this level and be left opinionless about it. The jarring contrast between trippy rainbow entanglements and slow, dark UFO hops, the 1 bitrate crushing effect, the 2 caved-in cube sections that go in completely different creative directions. This level was designed to stick in your mind, which it certainly does. I'm a huge fan of Quasar's perfectly imperfect style, so I'm left with a positive impression of Sheltopusik, but whether you like this level or not, you absolutely can't deny that it's overflowing with creativity. What a surprise. From the second I first saw Shine back in March, I was in love with it. I couldn't stop praising it for months after the community moved on from it, and I still can't shut up about it 9 months later. It's the perfect level to represent the beauty that a build-up is able to create in a level's progression, and honestly, it's the level we need most right now. The expectations that Shine sets up with its opening aren't too high, since it presents itself as a boring attempt at a space level, but this is completely intentional on Balloon's part. You wouldn't want the most special part of a level to be in the very beginning, after all. The beginning sections of Shine are competent enough to get its theme and style across, but Balloons is very clearly hiding something up its sleeve, as foreshadowed by the floating space dust and rocks throughout the level, the chaotic destruction of what looks like the inside of a spaceship, and the calm before the storm that shortly follows, complete with the shooting stars to give us some semblance of hope, even though there's very clearly something wrong. Then it hits us. If there's any one thing in GD that has been executed perfectly, it would be the black hole in Shine. It shows no mercy to the blocks it swallows whole, the player who tries to but can't outrun it, or the viewer who is left awestruck because of it. All while Kriya's wailing saxophone and piano twinkles are calling for help, giving this part even more emotional intensity. I think it's quite beautiful that the world as the player knows it ceases to exist, and that it falls apart as they go on. Not only is it something to sit and think about, but it makes perfect sense with the rest of the level, which focuses on more localized areas of destruction as opposed to the bigger picture. Shine has a sense of urgency to it, but this changes once we recognize the black hole. It's no longer a matter of escaping our problems, but how long it is until we're forced to give up in their presence. And that's the list. That's the video. That's it. That's it. It's over. I hope it gave you some insight into my values as a creator, since I think that they could be useful in the bigger picture, or just help you understand why you like levels that you do. I don't know, I'm improvising this ending, that's why I said that's it, like, too many times. Anyway, whatever, I don't care. I hope you enjoyed this video, since it's really out of my comfort zone, and I might start looking into doing more like it, because I don't want everyone to read a paste spin whenever I make one. I want it to be digestible. I'm sorry about the crappy audio throughout the video. I don't have the right equipment, and I'm probably not going to get it anytime soon, because I don't know if this is going to be something that I continue doing. Anyway, as like most YouTube videos do, I'm going to plug my social media. Specifically, follow me on Twitter at wless, because that's where I'm most active. You can subscribe if you want to, but like, I wouldn't recommend it. You're just going to wait a few months to get a notification for my next shitty level. So yeah, that's it. I'm gonna let this finish out because I like the ending of it. And that's it, that's the video. Goodbye.